Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the review of Romancing the Stone, a very special episode for the network that I am doing with my co-host, Katie Geilenkirchen. You may have heard her voice before on when we did the episode on Mel Gibson's, what movie was that again?
What Women Want?
Well, and since we figured out what women want, we decided, well, let's go Romancing the Stone.
Oh, such a classic.
What's your first memories of this movie back in the day? When's the first time you saw it?
Well, I was a toddler when the movie came out.
Yes, this was like 1984, March
Yeah.
1984.
Yes. But I mean, we must have had it recorded on VHS from TV. So it was just on rotation. We watched it all the time. Also,
Wow.
I feel like it was on TV a lot. So I probably started watching this when I was like 6, probably. And just it's been part of the rotation ever since. So
Hey,
and now rewatching it, I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that. Like rewatching it as an adult and after having doing some movie podcasts and seeing things from a different perspective, I'm seeing elements of the movie that I definitely wouldn't have caught before. What about you?
yeah, same thing. I was 11 when it came out. I actually missed it in the movies because it wasn't a big hit over here. It did make a lot of money. It cost 10 million to make, and they made about 90 million. So for a comedy adventure movie of this type, that's a decent amount of cash.
It was
Hence,
a surprise hit. Like they
yes.
were not expecting it to do well, and it became a hit.
Well, the idea I got from when I started looking into this, the making of this movie, is that nobody really expected anything of Michael Douglas anyway. And apparently he's a very unlikely leading man, which I found peculiar because I already knew him from the 70s TV show, which was Streets of San Francisco. And
Oh,
of
I
course,
never saw that.
you never saw
Okay.
that. Well,
No.
your typical cop show of the 70s. So he was pretty big in that. And so I figured he's such a well-known name. Well, but apparently he just had a movie it was some weird Judge Dredd kind of thing where
Oh,
judges would take their
okay.
matters into their own hands. Anyway,
Yeah.
it didn't work out that well because I've seen him before in other movies as well in supporting roles. Why wouldn't this guy be a leading man? He's handsome. He obviously commands the screen. Well, he's a little on the small side, though.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Well, he's got a very famous father. So Kirk Douglas,
Yeah,
who is your classic handsome leading man.
yeah.
Michael, he's not the typical like square-jawed, super masculine, manly man like Brando or Paul Newman. Like I'm trying to think of
Mhm.
some people from that era.
The classic
Um,
Hollywood handsome.
yes, so he doesn't have that, but he's got this like mystique, this mysterious, interesting, like he's got prominent features, which isn't typical of like a super handsome man. Well, I find it interesting, like his nose is on the bigger side and
Hmm.
he's got kind of longer hair. I don't know.
Well, the
But
immediate comparison you would make is Harrison Ford because it's an action adventure
oh,
or a
like
romantic
Indiana
adventure,
Jones.
and Indiana Jones is a romantic
Yep.
action adventure. Although I do suspect that the origins of both movies are very different. Spielberg modeled all his movies after the serialized films of like the 30s and 40s that he grew up with. And I think Romancing the Stone has a little bit more of a classic build. And so it's kind of interesting because if you compare Michael Douglas to, say, Harrison Ford, I don't think Harrison Ford is a very handsome man either, with all
But
those
he had the
features he has.
Star Wars fame,
He had the
right?
Star
So he
Wars
had the Star
fame.
Wars fame.
Indiana Jones was big for him. He's proven.
hmm
Yeah.
So Michael said, I saw something, I think maybe one of the like the look back at the look back link you sent. I started watching it and then I ran out of time. But Michael was saying, so he produced the movie
He
and
produced
he
the movie.
must have at this time, I'm not definitely not a Michael Douglas expert, but he apparently has been producing
Mhm.
movies.
Yeah, he
But
produced a lot of stuff.
yeah, so he was more known. He had said he was kind of more known as a producer,
Yeah.
and he wasn't even really, he wasn't originally going to play. He wasn't going to play Jack Colton,
Yeah.
but then he ended up playing him. So I think he
It's
said
cheaper that way.
he had to prove his acting chops a little bit. Can you guess who they were thinking about having play Jack Colton?
Kurt Russell.
Sylvester Stallone.
Seriously, Stallone.
Can you imagine? Actually, I think it would have been awesome.
He would have killed this. He would have been.
But
he would have done this really well. He should have done this instead of Rhinestone.
Maybe, but in 1984, I mean, he was hot. So I don't know if we could have.
And he didn't do jack in 1984 except direct an awful movie.
Well, it came out, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was coming off Rambo's and Rock, like he was in the midst of his fame.
Yeah, 1982, and he didn't do anything in 1983. And then Rhinestone came out, and then the Rockies and the Rambos came back. So it's like this was kind of I don't know what Stallone was doing at that point, but he could have cleaned up on this. Maybe he was like writing the script to Beverly Hills Cop that never happened.
Well, he was probably busy, but also he probably could have, maybe he was too expensive. Additionally, I think he would have overtaken the movie in that he was maybe too big, and like we would have just seen a Rambo. I don't know. I would have loved it.
He would have done what Stallone always does: take the script and Stallonify it.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. It wouldn't have been as I love Michael Douglas. So like he's got this like understated charisma, and I don't know, I guess I just bought their chemistry. He and Kathleen Turner's chemistry. He isn't a big guy. Like I kind of liked that he was just kind of a normal guy and not this like big hero type. So I like the movie as is, even though I'm obsessed with Sylvester Stallone.
The spaghetti arms that Michael Douglas has don't really sell him as a gun for hire you just find in the jungle.
Well, he was, I don't think he was a gun for hire, really. She just wanted somebody to take her, like somebody who knew the area to take her to a phone. He was an exotic pet trade person. Like he was smuggling birds.
Yeah.
Exotic birds or something. And he just happened to live there and know the terrain. And
I'm kind of animal friendly. So that didn't exactly make me warm to his character.
No, it was
how
the
those
80s,
birds are smuggled. I mean,
I know.
That's disgraceful.
Agreed.
How was Jack Colton going to smuggle those birds anywhere for $15,000? Because I think that's the amount of profit he was looking for.
I mean, there were a lot of issues. So the movie is just so fun. There were so many, I mean, talk about unrealistic crocodiles, him like holding that at the end when he's holding the crocodile, like from going over the edge.
Look at those snappers, Katie.
Oh my God, that was one of the best lines. I love Ira.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's like spoilers. This is a movie from 1984. We are going to talk spoilers. The movie pretty much ends on the bad guy getting his hand bitten off by a crocodile. And they just keep foreshadowing it like every 10 minutes. It's like there's this other bad guy called Ira, and he just keeps obsessing over crocodiles. So it's like they keep preparing you for this really, really god-awful thing that happens at the end of the movie. I thought it was great.
Oh my God, that's one of the best things about the movie. I loved it.
Yeah.
Zolo makes for the perfect bad guy. He's so the epitome of the 80s villain. Didn't you think?
He's very sinister.
Like that mustache and he's just dark. His hair's like black and he's dark and like in a handsome, he's like kind of handsome too, but like in a swarmy way.
In a very creepy way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great actor. It's like he also has the best line in the movie that's really understated because at some point, Danny DeVito is driving down a road chasing the protagonists. And of course, Zola, the bad guy, waves him down. And Danny DeVito's character is wanted by this guy. So they're in the car. Zola goes, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" And so Danny DeVito is sort of downplaying it by sort of hiding himself behind his hat and stuff like that. And it's like, no, you don't know me. No, I'm not from here. And so Zola goes, "Well, you're an American." And he says, no, I hate Americans. They're scum there. And then he asks, because he's in a French car, because this is a Citroën, he asks him, "Are you French?"
I didn't even catch it. I thought it was just because the French are notoriously.
Vous êtes français? Because the French hate Americans.
Yeah, that I didn't even catch the car piece. I just thought it was because like it's a shtick that the French hate Americans.
Yes, this is a shtick because that's not true in real life. Because I've traveled a lot, and I've been in a lot of hostels all over the world, and there's always French people, and there's usually a couple of Americans, and it's always the same kind of dynamic. It's always the French guy. making out with one of the American girls because they love his
Mm.
accent.
Mm-hmm.
Always the
We
same
are
thing.
we are suckers for an accent. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, apparently you don't. French men don't hate American women. Perhaps they
Of
just hate
course not.
American men. Perhaps
Of
that's
course
it.
not. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, oh my gosh. I mean, we're all over the place. I don't even really know how to get back on track because
Oh,
this
no
movie
problem. We
is
could just start where the
amazing.
movie starts, which is
Yeah.
basically the book scene. And the book scene
Oh,
is the writer Joan. Really, she writes in her alter ego, and apparently it's a Western, and some horrible guy has done horrible things to her and her family. He shows up, he kicks the door down, and she has the money, and so he's supposed to leave now. But of course, he doesn't because she's hot, and so he wants some more. And so she sort of seduces him, and then she has a hidden knife, and she throws this knife into his chest, and his gun falls, and then she rides off. And then there's yes, and of course, like all bastards, he has brothers. So these brothers apparently chase her, and of course, there's the hero Jesse who saves her at the last minute. Then they embrace in a field, and then something happens that irks me. I like this stuff so far. I could deal with like this Joan person riding her schlock. It's fine. It's just okay. So they kiss, which is okay, and then he lifts her up, which is okay, and then he gets on the horse. Together, they get on the horse and they ride off. And to me, it's like that's not physically possible. You cannot get into stirrups while you're holding a woman, get into the saddle while the horse is standing still. That's just not going to happen.
that's so funny because I noticed that watching it too. I mean, there's so many things about this movie that's unrealistic, but that kind of makes it awesome. I mean, it's like this is the romance novel scene. Like it's
Yep.
and and also because I'm, this like Miss Animal Rights, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
now you've got two people on one horse. What is going on? And then
Oh,
they're,
that's fine.
trailing the.
I've done that all the time. Actually, because I watched this scene as a kid a lot, I'd always wanted to try that. So when I'm an equestrian. So when I finally got to Spain to learn Spanish riding, that's one of the things I wanted to do. It's like, okay, find a girl, do that. Spanish style of riding is the women ride side saddle, right? So you learn a lot of tricks by you learn to pick them up from the saddle, etc. That's why that whole thing with the stirrup, it's just not going to work.
Well, of course not. Of
I
course
know
not.
how it could work. And that's what irks me. Why didn't they just do that? Because that looks great. Because making out with a girl on a horse saddle is great. It's fantastic. I can recommend it to anyone.
I wouldn't know, but I'll take your word for it. You know what else?
You should definitely try.
Well, I'm anti like riding animals, so I won't, but
Anti-riding animals? Why?
What do you mean? Why?
Horses love being ridden.
No, they do.
Yes, they
Moving
do.
on.
Yes, they do.
Moving on.
The only thing that doesn't love being ridden is a camel.
Save a horse, ride a cowboy. That we'll just go with that.
Okay. Well,
that's what I will do. But you know what else? Okay, so she gets done. So that's the end. That's the opening scene.
That's the opening scene. They
who
establish her as a bad novelist.
well, she's famous, and
Sort of.
Joan Wilder, I love her too.
Right.
But so
drug dealers in the middle of Colombia know who she is. Yeah.
she finishes like typing, like on an old timey, like, it's 1983. So she's
that
typing
thing is
her
hip
book.
in 1983, 84.
Yeah. The end, like she gets done, they ride off into the sunset forever, the end. Mm-hmm. Angelina and Jesse, like Jesse is her man, like
right.
the guy of her dreams in her books. And then she celebrates.
Yes, and it's not actually Kathleen Turner in the scenes. It's another actor.
No, you're correct. She is beautiful. It is a different person. And Jesse, he's a different person too. But she celebrates with her cat Romeo. So she, for some reason, has like a bunch of like airline bottles of booze, like a ton of them. I just thought that was weird, like those small bottles. I don't know if that was a thing in the 80s. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's still a thing.
She selects.
Oh,
why would you
never
not
travel KLM, huh? Okay, so here's the thing. When you travel a lot and you're in first class, you get a complimentary bottle The KLM used to do this. I'm not sure if they still do it, but it's like a little house in Amsterdam, and you can collect those. It has booze in it, and you can collect those. And people who travel a lot, they have like entire streets of it.
But these were just regular bottles. Like you can buy them at the liquor store at the checkout counter or whatever. Yeah. They're just like a small bottle of, liquor for like.
But this was a thing in the 80s. It would be like something airlines would just give out. And there was, you could still smoke on planes, and you could get as much as you want. And flying was still fun back then. It was before everything got ruined.
I know. But so she selects a thing of liquor, which I don't know. I'm like, why wouldn't you have full-size bottles of wine or liquor? But it's fun. It's kitschy. So that's what she's going to celebrate with. And then she gets her cat Romeo on a plate of china, his cat food.
I noticed that the cat eats better than she does.
Yes. She doesn't even eat anything. She just drinks her. So she, they're going to celebrate. She turns the fire on. It's like this romantic dinner with her cat. Yeah. And then she flings her wine glass into the fire. Yeah, and then she asks, and then she does the same with the plate. I don't get that. Am I missing something? Is that like a classic celebratory
it's supposed to bring
thing?
Good luck. And
is it?
Okay, so when you're writers, I've written a few books, and writers tend to have like traditions when they finish their manuscript.
Oh, so that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, and like the writer who taught me, it was Renate Dorrestein, which is a famous Dutch writer, and basically when she'd finish a book, the publisher would come over because he would have to stop her from torching it. Because she always hated her books. She always hated her manuscript, the finished manuscript. She thought, it's ruined, it's horrible, I didn't do a good job. And they would just sort of wrestle the manuscript away from her because she would like torch it in the barbecue. That was her thing. It's like she would dream of that while she was writing the manuscript. Oh, this is so bad. I'm just going to be so happy when I torch this thing. So that was her thing. And so basically every writer has something. It's like, sometimes you keep a special bottle of something and you just look at that bottle while you're writing, and it's kind of this little ceremonial reward you give yourself.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. That makes a little more sense. But I'm being so practical. I'm like, why would you waste good china? But anyway,
I doubt it was good china anyway. I mean, if you take a good look in her apartment, everything is just really crap.
That's true. So to your point, we see her dowdy, like leading this pretty lonely life. The only person that she has to celebrate with is her cat, so she's kind of a sheltered. Yeah. We see her medicine cabinet. She's got tons of medication. Like she must be a hypochondriac or something.
Mm-hmm. And she has like this weird relationship with a publisher who's like, you'd expect that to be her agent or something, but no, it's her actual publisher. And so they meet in a restaurant because this publisher is obsessed with getting her dates. They're in a bar and she's complaining about how all the men are crap. And then she finds this really douchey guy with this weird haircut. It's like, what about him? What about him? And she's like, not so much. I think she swipes left a lot, our Joan. But she does have like big posters of the covers of her jackets of her books all over the house, which isn't about her books. It's about the men on the covers, because that's her dream. She wants her Jessie, which is basically the whole premise to Romancing the Stone.
Indeed.
Like if you're a woman and you're still hoping for that perfect guy, then you need to step out of your comfort zone. And her comfort zone, her apartment, her cocoon, is a place she must leave in order to find the right guy. That's what the whole movie is about.
Yes. And so she's forced into it,
she's forced into one of her own adventures, really.
Exactly.
They suggest she barfs in department stores and she doesn't really want to go out, and she can't really deal with people on the street. That's another subtle thing. At the start of the movie, she gets hassled a lot by people selling her toy monkeys, and your boyfriend will like it, it's really kinky. And she goes like, I don't know, and at the end of the movie she's just smiling at everybody and just shrugging it off, and she's like in control of herself and confident, and she's a completely different woman. It's really cool. So that's another cool little thing. If you're going to watch the movie, those are the little scenes you have to watch out for. There are a lot of different scenes, small scenes that do a lot of character building that Agreed. I really enjoy, and when you view it for the second or the third time. And then there's the crazy lady in the staircase.
The old lady?
Yeah.
Why is she crazy?
Well,
just because she wants her to get a date.
She's bringing her the letter because basically that's the whole reason why they have that scene. They have to have someone to hand her the letter because it's too big to fit in the mail slot. So they needed that scene. So up comes this old woman. And of course, Joan says, well, why don't you take the elevator? And the woman says, oh, I'll never take the elevator. You know, rapists. That's hilarious. And she keeps calling her pumpkin 20 times. What's this pumpkin stuff? This woman obsessed with men raping her and pumpkins.
She's like the pseudo aunt or mother to Kathleen Turner's character.
Exactly. And it's this great like character actor that keeps showing up in all kinds of movies and TV shows. And
she does.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's just, it has all these little, that's what makes this movie great. It has all these like little scenes with really, really talented people who do their little line and then just disappear.
The cast was good, you know, again, like, so there's basically only, let's see, so there's Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, Danny DeVito. Those are basically the only three known people. Yeah. But then it's rounded out by this other cast. So Zolo's character, Juan's character. Oh, Ira. I forgot about Ira.
Great.
Yes. Ira is amazing.
Ira's great.
So there's really not that many people in it, but like everybody really does their part in like lifting the movie up, I guess I should say.
Yes, and the interesting part is that Danny's role was really small because you can tell that the main bad guy was supposed to be Ira and Zola, sort of. But Danny's role apparently grew and grew and grew. The reason Danny is in it at all is because Michael Douglas and Danny DeVito already knew each other. They were sharing an apartment.
Yeah, they go way back.
They go way back.
Yeah.
Way back. And so obviously Michael's producing a movie. Hey, Danny, I have a part for you. And Danny reads it and it's like, well, what? This isn't the part. I was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Why would I do this? And so they just kept adding to the script. And that's why Danny DeVito pretty much steals the movie.
He's great. I love him. And so I'm sure everyone has seen this, but so Danny DeVito is Ralph and Ira. So
Ira's cousin.
Yes. Ira and Ralph are cousins. And it's funny because they're literally like physically opposites. Yeah. Ira's this like tall, balding guy. I think Stan Zbornak from Golden Girls. That's who he reminded me of.
Yeah.
And so Ira's
you and your Golden Girls.
I know it. But Ira's like this slick shyster, and Danny, it's like they're these like pseudo incompetent comedy relief. Like they're not really bad guys, but they're criminals. And so
they're like Joe Pesci and the other guy from Home Alone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So they're after the treasure. Zolo's after the treasure.
Ah, yes. We should mention the treasure. Romancing the stone. Okay. So I have a problem with that whole thing. I'm sure it was in the script, but I think they cut it out in some way or botched it because they don't really explain the treasure. They don't explain where the map comes from. They don't explain why the stone is in a bunny statue that they have to break. Who put that there? Because that was it like a robbery and they just hid it there? And there was no backstory to the treasure because it's not an ancient treasure. It's not like it's a Maya treasure or anything. It looked more like a polished stone that was stolen from a museum or someplace. And
it was a heart-shaped. I mean, I couldn't even venture to guess the carat weight of this enormous heart-shaped emerald, like perfectly, this perfect emerald, and El Corazon. Mm-hmm. And the reason that, what's her name? Joan goes to Colombia in the first place is because she gets this map sent from her sister, Elaine, who is kidnapped. Her husband has been killed over this map, but before he was killed, he sent the map to Joan. So yeah, we don't really know. There's something there. He was involved in drug smuggling, which I totally did not remember until I rewatched it last night. It's marijuana. It's not even cocaine. Isn't that funny?
That's another thing. That was a big thing in the 80s.
Really? Well, I thought Coke was too, but
so it was Coke. But yeah, well, the irony, of course, is that Colombia is known for Coke, but it's the same with marijuana. It's just, it's a drug and it was popular back in the day and hard to get, etc. So
I suppose in the 80s, yeah. See, now we're all like, well, it's legal. Like, what's the big deal? But back then it wasn't.
Ironically, it was already legal in Holland.
That's right. I
Yeah.
know. I remember going in high school to Amsterdam, and we were
But
so
actually,
excited.
the irony is that it's not legal.
It's
It's
just decriminalized or something.
we no, it's not even decriminalized. It's we just don't enforce the law.
It's like, yeah.
It's not enforced. So that's basically what we're saying is like, yes, it's illegal, and it's illegal, but not for if you do it normally. But if you're organized crime, then we crack down on you. So it's a great way to catch criminals, because the easiest way to get a criminal is just to go to one of the stores where the coffee shops where they sell the stuff, and then they just backtrack to wherever they're getting it from. Usually, it's like greenhouse farms in the southern part of the country, and whenever they want to have a big bust, they just have a nice easy bust.
Interesting. I would have thought that it would have been a nice revenue generator for the government. That's how we use it.
Yeah, that's what it should be. It should be taxed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But apparently they're taxing cigarettes, but they're not taxing that. So it's strange. But then again, our law enforcement doesn't do much of a job finding drugs anyway, because I think about 500 billion worth of drugs goes through the Rotterdam ports, street value. And we catch about, I think, maybe 1% of it, 2%, something like that. So we're horrible at it. And that's probably
I'm sure we are too. I have no idea. Yeah.
Everybody's just bought off. And I mean, the whole system is just corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 500 billion war chest, then politicians come cheap.
So speaking of, Xolo's, because they're not the official police, Xolo and his like military army police, like who are they exactly? Because they seem to be military.
It makes no sense because I don't know, Colombia has a regular government, and they have paramilitary organizations because they had a lot of guerrilla problems. But it seems like they suggest he's some kind of secret agent, someone in intelligence community who is very powerful. And he's also a doctor in archaeology. That makes no sense because the treasure they're hunting is not archaeological.
No, but they call him like Colonel, and then they're in like a police station of sorts when Ralph is there, and there's wanted posters up, and Ralph falls off the counter trying to grab his wanted picture so they don't recognize him when he's calling Ira. That's a funny scene.
Yeah.
So Ralph is just the way he like chews his gum, and everything he does is hilarious in the movie. Like Danny DeVito plays that part perfectly.
Yeah, and look at them snappers, Katie.
Oh my God. I think he says it 4 times. And he has pet. Remember when they're on the boat? He has like pet crocodiles on like chain collars.
There are just crocodiles all over this movie.
Oh my gosh. Also,
and when I went to Colombia, I didn't see that many crocodiles. Colombia is it's this faraway place that is really exotic, that has very dangerous animals, and that has very dangerous spy community. And we don't really know what's going on there, but a person like Joan is going to get into trouble. That's basically all we're getting. So it could be anywhere. It could be Paraguay. It could be somewhere in Africa. It doesn't matter, really. It's just strange country. A nice writer person runs into a lot of problems. That's the extent of it, because they shot everything in Mexico. Everything looked like Acapulco to me.
Well, I thought that they did a pretty good job when they were showing the countryside.
That's all Mexico, because Colombia looks different.
Well, it depends on where you are. I suppose it depends on where you are. I mean, I was next door. I haven't been to Colombia, but I was next door in Ecuador.
The region discuss. The region they're in is a coastal region, because that's where that famous castle is. The castle that she goes to, that's on the top of the truck, or on top of the bus, I mean, instead of Cartagena. I think it's called Castello de la Felipe. I've been there, and it's a coastal fortress. So, and they're showing the interior of the country. It makes no sense.
Well, they're back and forth. So Cartagena.
Yeah, technically she lands in Bogota, right? Because it's an international flight.
Right.
And that's where the international airport is. So it doesn't look like Bogota Airport. So, okay. Forgo that. It's 1984, blah, blah. Anyway.
They're just showing, I thought it was interesting how they show like the rural villager people.
Yeah.
Just like how different. They really want it be shown as a third world place or a developing nation. And she is so out of her element.
That
She's
Colombia
wrong,
completely is not. It's a very
Yeah.
modern country, so it's ridiculous the way they portray it, even then. But still, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because it felt kind of like Nicaragua to me.
Okay.
Because they would have that kind of airport, and they would have that kind of like paramilitary organization that is semi-criminal, etc. Because there's actually a lot of weird stuff going on in Nicaragua right now and El Salvador.
Yeah.
I found that out while I was in Belize last month. It was like, oh, really? That's happening?
But I guess it could be believable because so they were a little all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
She's supposed to go to Cartagena, which is a coastal town.
Mm-hmm.
But then she gets on the wrong bus and seemingly is like in the jungle.
Like, how does that happen?
Jungle.
How do you're in New York? You use the subway all day. How do you get on the wrong bus? I mean,
nobody spoke English, and she was asking, even though there was a sign, and they changed the sign to, and the guy, Zolo.
So you get on a bus with people who don't speak English. Really, that's bright.
Well, I mean, nobody was going to wherever, but so Zolo seemingly comes to a rescue.
The bus driver, that was his main line.
Okay. She's like, so Zolo seemingly comes to the rescue and tells her that the bus goes.
She almost kills him because you don't talk to the bus driver.
Oh.
She's all polite about everything, but she does forget the main rule of public transport. You do not talk to the driver, you silly woman.
So that's when she runs into Jack's vehicle.
Yeah. That's where she kills all his birds. It's her fault. Mm-hmm. She murders all the birds. Now I don't like her either.
Well, I don't know if she murders them. They get freed and they.
Well, you never actually see them, right? So okay.
Yeah,
it wasn't in the budget.
Yeah, so they're in the jungle. So I guess I can believe that because now, because they're literally in the middle of nowhere, seemingly having driven several hours away from Cartagena.
Yeah.
So she's in the jungle now, and she meets Jack Colton.
Yeah. And she meets Jack, but he doesn't introduce himself until 20 minutes later. Jack comes in gun blazing. He's angry about his birds. And so we find out he's a little bit, volatile, shall we say?
When he says several times, I should have listened to my mother. Like I should have become a plastic surgeon or something. He says that several times.
Yeah. So we know who he's getting away from.
He's been in Colombia for Lord knows how long. And he even says something about, get me out of this godforsaken. Oh, no, it's Ralph and Ira.
Yeah.
Like they want to be done. This is their last,
It's one of those countries where people end up who have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Who are just desperate.
Mm-hmm. And then he, so I would have died if I were her too. So he finally agrees. She's lugging her old style suitcase from the 80s.
Yes.
Like there's no wheelie suitcases. She's like,
they start bickering immediately.
Yes. She's in like a skirt suit with like stockings and heels on.
Right.
And finally he's like,
in her defense, she didn't expect to be in a jungle.
No, but I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out.
And Cartagena is a really nice city.
I know, but she didn't bring anything. So I can't remember if it was before or after. No, it was after he agrees. So they're negotiating a price for him taking her to a phone, and it ends up being like $375 or something like that.
Traveler's checks, yes.
Traveler's checks. I totally forgot
it was the 80s.
Of the existence of traveler's checks. I just thought that was a nice little blast from the past.
Oh, I used them all the time back in the day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. I couldn't afford a credit card.
He's like American Express, of course.
There you go. It's insured, it's covered.
So they're off, and he's just like hiking along, not trying to help her at all. And she's trying to keep up. And finally,
yes, he's not adhering to the gallant hero type.
No,
which he likes so much. He's a little rough around the edges.
Makes us kind of be like, oh, we kind of like him even more. And then at one point he picks her suitcase up. Mm-hmm. She thinks, oh, he's going to carry my suitcase. And he's like, do you have anything valuable in here? And she's like, just like all of my things. An umbrella? No. Because meanwhile, it's raining the whole time. It's raining.
It's like monsoon. It's not raining a little bit. It's monsoon raining.
Yeah, you're right. It's down.
What the hell are those idiots doing in the rain?
And she's trying to hike in heels. And so finally he's like, basically, do you have anything that could be of use to you in the suitcase? Like, do you have a pair of walking shoes? She's like, no, they're all like these. And he chucks her suitcase over the cliff. I would have died. But like, what was she going to do with it? Carry it, lug it around
Foreshadowing
with her?
what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
that's actually one of the best scenes.
it
And
is.
the best stunt in the entire movie. Because that's another thing that normal rom-coms, if you can consider this a rom-com, don't have this kind of stuff in it. I mean, this is a very serious stunt. These people actually slid down this mountain in a mudslide. I mean, it looks brutal.
They could have
And if-
died. I mean, in real life, you know.
Yeah. You ram into a tree or something sharp, and that's it. So, of course, it leads to a really great gag where she falls into the water, and he falls after her, and he falls with his face right between her legs, foreshadowing something else.
Oh my God,
And-
it was so cute. I
and
loved
he's all
it.
excited because he
Yeah.
just gets off on stuff that gives him adrenaline. You can tell from everything he
Mhm.
does. Whenever there's like shooting or there's a car chase or they're falling somewhere or whatever happens, he's happy.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, one of the other things how old do you think they are? I did look it up.
Mid-30s.
Both of them.
Yeah.
She's 30
Hmm.
and he's 40.
Yes, but actors lie about their age.
I mean, I did this based on the year they were born. I just
Mhm.
like back in the, so 40
If that's true at all.
40 is not old now to be doing a movie like that. But
Mhm.
back in 1984, it seems like that was like, I mean, unless you're Sylvester Stallone, 40 was probably kind of old
Yeah, it probably was. And
for Michael
well, it
Douglas.
does
to be
lead
doing
into the
this.
whole, is Michael Douglas a good leading man? Well, he's a little grizzled around the edges, but he does have great hair.
Yeah. I mean, I don't particularly care for that hairstyle, but back in 1984, that was amazing.
And his hair just kept looking good no matter how
yeah.
bad it got.
Yes, his hair did look good. There was something about, so you mentioned his arms earlier. I actually thought he looked nice, like that his arms looked nice because he's not like beefy, like he's not bulky.
He's
but
not athletic in any way.
Well, I don't know about, he's not your typical like.
Because I remember
athlete
him
look.
naked from, was that Fatal Attraction? Or was that, no, I think it was Basic Instinct. He's naked in Basic Instinct. And
That was quite a bit later. So he was
quite
like
true,
pretty old.
quite a bit later, but
Yeah.
he just, I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
but in
No, you tend to
Romancing the
compare people
Stone,
to yourself.
you're
I'm
right.
like
Well,
that age now.
totally different.
Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry, Michael, but compared to me, you look like molten wax.
but this, I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying like the what's deemed sexy or attractive kind of goes through periods of, what's popular then.
Yes,
isn't
but this
necessarily
was
popular
the
now.
Stallone, Arnold, Chuck Norris age. This was 1984. So
But it was also like the Kurt Russell, like everybody
Kurt
wasn't.
Russell's
like, this, like-
muscular.
I didn't think Michael Douglas was not. He was fit. He just wasn't athletic. Like
Thin.
the sex scene that they have. Now, I don't think
If he was a
has much-
woman, I would think he would be bulimic.
Oh, he has nice arms. He's just not bulky. He doesn't have the extra bulk. He's not a bodybuilder. He's just like a normal fit
Would
man.
not have killed him to do some dumbbell curls. When they came to the drug dealer's house, the drug dealer even had like a little dumbbell set. He could have used that.
I know, that's funny. I thought that was a great scene, by the way.
I
You
know.
like open up to this like awesome 80s pool. But on Michael Douglas, I'll just say they clearly thought he was attractive because there were several times where his shirt's open. Like if they didn't think he
He's
looked
a good looking guy. And he's
Yeah.
a producer.
I thought that he looked very nice. Like he wasn't flabby at all. He was just like a normal, attractive
He has
body
he
type.
has the typical 80s body, kind of like Don Johnson had.
Yeah, it wasn't like a big thing aside from the
Well, Don Johnson had
steroids.
spaghetti arms as well, but great
I mean,
hair.
yeah, they can't all be Sylvester Stallone.
They should have
know.
been, but they can't all be. That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I did like the sex scene, but I do not like his outfit that he changes into. It makes his body look weird.
What,
I
the
thought.
white thing?
Yeah,
You make him
His-
look gay.
It's
And
something
there's
about
nothing
his
wrong with gay
lower-
people, but he's supposed to date a woman. So
Yeah, I
you
didn't
don't wear
like
that.
the pants. It made him look like he had no butt.
Yeah.
But
He
anyway,
doesn't have one, so makes sense.
yeah. So anyway,
Although I did enjoy the dance scene.
Oh,
They
great.
look good together,
Yes.
and it was in the dance age, right? So you have to have a dance scene because this was during you had Staying Alive and you had Flashdance. This was during that era, so you couldn't do a movie without a dance scene. When I watched that scene, I thought to myself, "Wow, I wish I could have been an extra on that scene because you would do 20 takes and all you would have to do as an extra is just dance.
It would have been hard though. I mean, it would have been kind of a good workout. But yes, I know you are an actual dancer. So you would have very much enjoyed it. You can't have like a Latin movie, like a movie set in Latin America without a fantastic like Latin dance scene.
Yes, and that's my other gripe with this movie. Bad soundtrack. The music was horrible.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. One of my notes was how much I loved the music.
Really?
It was a perfect soundtrack to the movie, the actiony parts of it.
But it wasn't. I don't know.
The score, I loved it. It's perfect. You hear that like
it wasn't Latin enough.
Like the drum, yes, and it's like that epitomizes the movie for me. I don't know. I hard disagree.
Yeah, and this movie had a hit song. "Romancing the Stone" was a hit song. Yeah, and
that's cheesy
though.
In
the movie,
it's cheesy. I don't like it. Mm-mm. That's literally one of my notes. That
he's done better stuff.
Music.
I think he's done better stuff.
I'm sure he has. Speaking of, is it him and directed by Robert Zemeckis?
Yes, Robert Zemeckis.
And
this is the movie he did right before Back to the Future, right before he made one of the greatest movies of all time.
This allowed him to do Back to the Future. Like he was like, he was kind of unknown at this time, and they were like, didn't expect it to do well, and then it did. But there was a team, I guess. The
producer Michael Douglas was desperate for a decent director, and this guy came cheap.
I bet he did.
Yeah, they had to cut corners. But apparently,
there's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
So Silvestri and Zemeckis and Kathleen Turner all did Romancing the Stone and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yep.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Then there was the Back to the Future. There was a bunch of Tom Hanks movies, Castaway and Polar Express, and I think even Forrest Gump. Yeah,
the big one.
So they must have had like a. I don't know if they were partners or
they're probably in the same agency. That's pretty much how things work. They're in the same talent agency, and that's how you end up working with the same people all the time. On the other hand, if you're a producer, you have your set people you work with that you're comfortable with. So that's another
thing. That makes sense. That's true. Yeah, that makes sense.
So they meet a drug dealer because they need his car. He goes, "I don't have a car." "Oh, you mean my little mule?" And the first thing I thought was, "Oh, drug mule." He uses it. And so it ends up being like this big truck, and it's like specially engineered or something, although I don't see anything special about it. But it's called Little Mule, Pepe. I mean, he has this like escape route that he uses to elude the authorities. So obviously this truck is used to bring products to the market, right?
He has the remote control. What do they call the ramp that there's like a remote control? He pushes on a button.
Yeah.
Escape.
Was it like Dawson's Escape or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. And
Rosie's Escape, something like that. Yeah.
Yes. And he's used it plenty of times, and it's a little rusty. So of course, when the army Jeep hits it, it breaks. It was cute. It was cute.
Great.
It was great. Nice surprise. And it had a kind of A-Team feel. And that's when I started looking into stuff. I was like, wait a minute. And of course, the people who shot the A-Team were involved in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some of the same like stunt people and some of the same cinematography people and props. Because here's the fun part: a lot of things in this movie end up on the A-Team TV show. Like for example, the machine guns they use. They have like this government issue AK-47, the shiny gun that Colton uses in the end. Those are the same ones that the A-Team reverts to after like second or third season. It's around the same time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it has the same kind of feel because, of course, Michael Douglas came from television. So that's why I suspect a lot of the music, how they use it and how certain things are shot, they have a kind of television-y feel.
I can see that.
Except for the stunts. because you can tell that they kind of went crazy with it.
There was one where when they have to use the vines hanging because
Yeah,
there's no
to
bridge
go across the
over.
chasm, and they
Yes.
do that for real.
Well, so
There's no
it was,
CGI there. They just
I
go across that
know
thing.
it
It's
was
insane.
awesome. That's why I don't like like I like these older ones where it's actual stunts, but I did notice, so she makes it across and like
Mm-hmm.
lands perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
He base plants into the side of the mountain
Yep.
and you can see that it's a rubber mountain, but that's okay.
Yep. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Douglas doesn't really have strong arms, so
Yeah. But
that's why he's screaming for her help while she's hitting the booze.
she is that's another great. There's so many little
Little
things
callbacks.
like that. He's like, Joan trying to climb up and she's like finding her booze. I
Yeah,
love
it's a
it.
little callback because at the start of the movie, when her publisher, I keep reminding myself it's her publisher, sends her on her way, she reminds her, oh, you're going to need something stronger than that, because she puts booze in her purse.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before the time when you would get strip searched before you get on a plane and have to like give off all your fluids and stuff. You could just take on the plane. You could take anything on the plane that you wanted.
It was
Anything.
less than 3.4 ounces. So she probably could have brought it on.
She could have brought bottles.
Today.
Nobody would have cared.
I mean, but now even because it was a tiny one. Anyway, it's so great. It's so over the course of their little adventure, you see these little moments between them where that, a long lingered look or whatever, but they haven't, it takes them a while to actually.
No, they bicker like an old married couple.
Married couple, yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, I alluded to this already. I think there's some major classic grounding in this movie. They look back on certain stuff. And when you really look at Hollywood and its history, there's one movie that stands out, the movie with Katharine Hepburn.
The African Queen.
The African Queen. And that's shot on location on the Congo River. It had the same sensibility. Mm-hmm. It even had the same feel in some ways. The way they're bickering, they have this MacGuffin, they're looking for the stone, whereas on the African Queen, they have to torpedo a boat somewhere. And it has the same kind of, how can we hook this into something everybody automatically knows? And that's how it felt to me. It's like, okay, let's make something classic.
There are a lot of parallels, I guess, like in that she's kind of Catherine and I don't recall her. Yes, but I don't recall their names in the movie. But Catherine's character and Joan are both kind of, like out of their element, like
and on a mission,
not prepared for what it is, and then they need like a local guide that's also American, where they are. That's older, a little more grizzled, and is not up for it. And then their arm is turned, and then they end up falling in love. And
And another reason why you should watch Katharine Hepburn movies, and you should definitely watch African Queen, and even more should watch the documentary on it, because the making of that movie is even more interesting than the movie itself. It's insane what they did. They went to Africa where you don't shoot movies for real. You don't shoot movies there. And they find out the hard way. You don't shoot movies there, and they have to reshoot half the movie on a soundstage in London because everybody got sick with food poisoning, and everybody. It was a mess.
I don't remember that, but when I watched it, I had just gotten back from Tanzania not too far after, and when I watched that movie, you had recommended it, and I watched it, and I was like, oh my God, they're actually in Africa, and the people are like, Jumbo, Asante Sana. I'm like, oh my God, they're speaking Swahili. I know those words. Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome movie. It's great. Clint Eastwood made a movie about that movie, about the making of that movie. You should check that out. I think it's The Great White Hunter, because John Huston, the director, was obsessed with shooting an elephant. And when Katharine Hepburn found out, who's a big animal activist, they bickered like an old married couple about him not doing that.
Absolutely not. Okay, I was like, I will have to never see a movie of his again if he shot an elephant. But yeah.
Okay. Well, if that's how you measure people, then you're going to have trouble like watching Stallone movies, because I'm pretty sure he shot at a lot of stuff.
No, I mean like poachers and trophy hunters that go on African safaris for the purpose of their trophy. Like that is so repulsive.
Those idiots. Sure. Yeah.
That's so repulsive to me. Anyway.
It's repulsive to everybody, I think.
Yes. So nobody do that, please.
Yes, let's not.
But to your point about...
Let's leave furry little animals where they're supposed to be, in the jungle and alive.
Exactly. They were here first. To your point about callbacks and like foreshadowing, what did you think about, I mean, since you've been to Colombia as well, how many scenes were there where there's like this gigantic grate that like a human could almost fall through?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In the street where there's crocs underneath it, like a pit of, like, what is that about? That's not a thing, is it?
It's not a thing at all. But it's a good way to have crocodiles crawling under your sewers.
But it continues to foreshadow, because as Ira continues, he throws things down.
That's why I'm saying the Colombia thing, take it with a grain of salt, and certainly don't think it has anything to do with Colombia in any way. Okay.
It helps the movie along just to show
it's MacGuffin.
Okay, keep this in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And the crocodile thing, I think that like the Zemeckis was probably obsessed with it. I have to have crocodiles. We have to have crocodiles. In many ways, this was a very, very, very strange production.
It did culminate into a fantastically wild movie, though.
And isn't that amazing? That, here you have an unexperienced leading man, also not experienced in making this kind of movie at all. He's used to doing stuff in television. And there you have Kathleen Turner, who's a complete unknown, and who they just sort of cast because she kind of sounds like Lauren Bacall.
She actually looks like her too.
Yep.
Don't you think?
And Lauren Bacall was with Bogey on African Queen, and everybody knew it. So that's you're baffled by how simplistic these people think and how they come to these things. It's just okay. Here we uncover yet another layer of the onion. And
the screenwriter also was unknown. So there were so many, unproven people on this movie.
Yeah, she was a waitress.
Was she?
Yes. She was a waitress.
What's her name?
Diane Thomas. And she was a waitress, and she just shopped that script around, and Michael Douglas came by accident, and he read it, and he was like, oh, this is it. This is a movie I can make. And because you're probably looking for a movie to do. And apparently he went by her restaurant and talked about it with her, and they talked for hours. And he was like, oh, she's amazing. So we have to some kind of way to sort of involve her in this movie in a way that she comes across on the screen. So it's like a lot of things Kathleen had to bring to the screen were about the person who wrote the screenplay.
Oh, okay. I don't think I knew that. I did learn tragically that she passed away the year after this movie came out in a car accident. So she must have been really young. So that's unfortunate.
Isn't it? It's always unfortunate and a little strange. A little odd. But then again, odd things happen to people in Los Angeles, I've noticed.
Yeah. It's an odd place, right?
It's a very strange place. It's exceedingly strange place. Okay, so the plot is really predictable. Since it's a kind of, it's a Zemeckis film. So the next film he makes is Back to the Future. Wouldn't it have been cool if this had all been going on in Joan's head? If she just wakes up and it's like it was a dream.
No, and here's why.
Would that ruin the movie?
I think for me, I mean, I hear where you're going, and it would have been maybe a more artful take on it. But I kind of like that this was essentially, it is very formulaic. I mean, it's predictable, but she ends up having the adventure and the experiences that she writes about. And ultimately in doing so finds her Jessie. And I like that it's real for her.
Yes. But and the interesting thing, that's one of the things that struck me, is that she has an idealized version of a man that's going to sweep her off her feet. She also has a very distinct idea of what a bad guy is like. Of course, as soon as Jack starts to display signs of normal human behavior, she gets angry. She gets really angry.
Like what normal human behavior does she get angry about?
Oh, he wants to find the treasure, and he wants money, and he wants her to keep up instead of dragging him down while they're walking in the rain. It's all normal human behavior. I mean, here you are, there's this woman and she has this convoluted story about her sister being kidnapped, and that she has to like provide a map, and this map leads to a treasure. So as a man, the first thing you think of is, one, why didn't you go to the cops? Two, why didn't you just mail order them the map? Three, why not go for the treasure? You have more leverage.
Well, I understand why she would be. So I guess she doesn't even, as a viewer, I'm curious to see what you think about this, but as a viewer, I mean, it was a good element of the movie, but it made me like, God damn it, go effing figure. You're such a man in that. So he convinces her to go for the treasure. He does, but then they have this like touching night, this evening. They go to bed together.
Yeah, and he does exactly what she would expect, right?
She's like, why didn't you take it? And he did take the map, and then he puts it back when he learns that she wants to go find it anyway. Like, so I'm like, God damn it, why can't any man just be good?
Yes, but he is good. He does the right thing in the end.
But so what did you think about that? Like, would he have stolen it? Had she not said, yes, let's go for the treasure?
He's a desperate man in search of desperate fortune.
So do you think he would have taken it and left her? I'm
not sure he would have done that. Why would you do that? Not with a senior. Well, at some point after many chases, they get separated by a big river. And he has the stone, she has the map, and he just tells her, look, just walk straight and you're there. So I'll see you at your hotel. What was the hotel again? Okay, I'll see you there. And she's like, well, I just knew this would happen. And she's convinced that
he planned it that way.
Yeah, he planned it that way. He pulled one over on her. And this is after Danny DeVito's character explains to her, look, you're a sap. He's romancing the stone right from under you. And he's basically what the audience, he's the voice of the audience. He's what the audience is telling Joan, look, get your head out of the clouds. This guy's just going to steal your stuff. Look at the way he's looking, etc. So he proves he's actually heroic when he actually does show up.
He does.
With the diamond stuffed down his shorts.
That I remember, that's like that series of events, and then how he kicks it and like that period of film is, I think, my favorite part of the entire movie.
It's not really callback, but it did irk me, or not irk me, it just sort of surprised me, is that the sister's husband cut up into little pieces, apparently by Zola, we suspect, but they only found one piece of him. And you see Joan kind of looking like, yeah, I don't want to talk about what piece they found, but they only found one piece of him. So basically Zola cut the guy's dick off and they couldn't feed the rest. So what? He got fed to the alligators or something? Or
how did you come to that conclusion? Did I miss that?
Well, it's in the first few scenes, actually. Joan says this to her publisher. And then they make another mention of it. But that whole process, they don't explain who the dead husband was, or why they were there, or what exactly he was doing. I assume he was some kind of archaeologist.
No, he was into smuggling drugs.
What the?
Eduardo was his name. Oh. And that's how he got himself killed.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah, smuggling but drugs, I didn't. Huh? He was, got in, I don't know if he stole it from Zolo or whatever the case may be, but he was involved in the drug trade.
So how did he get the map?
I don't know. That was never explained.
Not explained.
How he came across that, but he sent
someone mailed it. He mailed it.
He did. He mailed it before he died.
So how the hell did he get the map?
I don't know. That's not explained.
Yeah. Don't think about it too much.
But I did not catch.
We cut that for time.
What piece of him they found? I didn't catch that.
Neither did I. I don't understand it at all. But it's still an entertaining movie. It's really a popcorn movie. It's just something you just stop thinking about things. Just, follow right along, follow the next car chase, follow them swinging over the chasm.
It's amazing. And speaking of missing pieces, Michael Douglas wiggles the gem out of his pants and it sparkles on his boot.
After he gets hit in the nuts with a rifle butt. Yeah.
Yes. And he kicks it.
Yes.
And says choke on it. And Zolo catches it. And it's this amazing shot of his hand
Mhm.
And he's always got a cigar. He's
It's a
just
good catch.
Yeah, he caught it, and we're like, oh. And then the croc comes and bites his hand off.
Look at
And
them snappers, Katie.
oh my God, I love it. And then meanwhile, Jack is just concerned about watching where that croc goes. He wants that gem because he wants this boat to sail
Oh, he's
around the
obsessed
world.
with it.
So the entire time there's fighting ensuing between all sorts of different parties. Jack is focused on where this croc is going, and
He's
he
got his
sees
eye
it
on the prize. He has
Yes,
his priorities straight. He's the only one, really.
he sees it go up, like seemingly upstairs to the top of this like fortress.
Yeah, don't think about that too much.
I know. And then so Jack is like, before the croc goes over the edge into the water again, Jack
he
catches
grabs
him by the tail. Meanwhile, crocs weigh like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So and Jack's like 150 pounds.
Yeah,
And then he's
soaking
like
wet
trying to catch
with spaghetti
he's holding
arms.
with one, yes, hold on to his tail with one arm while he tries to reach from his machine gun so he can save his love now.
Yes.
And
Meanwhile, the bad guy is trying to kill Joan instead of going after the diamond. Explain that? No, there's no explanation. That's why I'm thinking this is all in Joan's head, and this is just some bad book she's written.
He's just
the book she actually turns into her publisher at the end of the movie. And the publisher is, oh, this is the best thing you've ever written, especially the ending. And of course, the ending has never happened because they part ways in Colombia.
Yeah, she makes up the ending to her book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the end is that the real end of the fortress scene is that she's like, what, you're leaving? He's going to jump over to get, because he lets go of the croc so he can save Joan. Exactly. But then he wants to go after that croc in the water. Meanwhile, how many crocs are in the water? And he knows exactly which one it is.
But it had a specific tail. It had like a yellow tail or something. So
it did, I suppose. But he's going to go wrestle with 1,000-pound animals. But it's
he's
anyway.
Jack Colton.
She's like, you're leaving? And how does he say, you'll be fine, Joan, or something?
You've always been fine.
You've always been fine. But she makes up an ending. It's an amazing ending to the book. And then to your point about her walking, she's back in New York and she has this air of confidence about her.
She's a different woman now.
Yeah. She has experienced the world. She's lived her romance dream and she sees this boat pull up in Manhattan.
Yes, and she's no longer hopeless. She's now hopeful, a hopeful romantic.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Good point.
They kind of shoehorned that in though.
Yeah, they do. They do. But I could, the ending of the actual movie ending to me was amazing. Even though I'm an animal person and he shows up with the boots.
Yeah, he killed the alligator.
And he had
suggesting it had indigestion from the diamond or the emerald, I should say.
The emerald, yes.
Yeah.
She's like, nice boots. And then they sail off into the sunset or ride off. It's on a semi-trailer.
Yeah. It's in the middle of New York. It's on a trailer and it's not that big of a boat, really. Then they make out on top of the boat while it's driving off. So I was like wondering who's driving and where are they going? But apparently they're going on an adventure now.
He wants to sail around the world.
They sail around. And that's the cool thing. This movie has a sequel, a great sequel.
It sets it up.
And it sets it up. They end into Happily Ever Afterland. And the sequel, which depending on how many listeners we get, we may cover at some point, is about what happens to a couple like that after Happily Ever After. That's Jewel of the Nile. So,
and I did read that there was potentially going to be a third movie.
Well, they made War of the Roses because that's the cool thing. These three actors.
That's true. Yeah.
These three people made 3 movies together, successful ones. They made a ton of money together. With great, and those are all classics. They're also all great movies because War of the Roses is in a class of its own. I mean, that's like The Divorce from Hell.
Is that where they buy the money pit?
No, that's Tom Hanks.
Okay, never mind. I'm conflating movies, but
War of the Roses is unfortunately not an 80s adventure movie, so we can't really cover that. Although the fight in the attic is pretty brutal.
Yeah,
but it's they basically have. You can kind of think of War of the Roses as like the dismal ending to this trilogy.
true. But there was actually going to be a third movie. Anyway,
And
yeah,
there should have been.
yeah, good stuff for sure. Kathleen Turner I don't really remember her doing that much. She did ultimately become Chandler Bing's father in Friends.
Yes. And
Remember?
she was in Californication.
Was she? Okay. I haven't seen that.
Really good part. You should watch that.
I will. A lot of people have told me I would like it.
I love Californication. I'm big on Californication.
Great movie. I have no final words.
I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it. Everyone who watches that movie enjoys it. And I hope they're enjoying our podcast.
Indeed.